Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Art of Gracious Living. Today we're going to be talking about the best summer boot, period, hands down. The trouble with summer is it's hot, and those of you who like to wear boots, in other words, some sort of footwear with more support than, say, running shoes or even the usual heritage go-to, which are camp mocks or boat shoes, you're kind of out of luck because your boots are awfully hot in the summer. We recently had some 90-degree weather here in Maine, and that was before Memorial Day. And I wore a pair of Beckett Simonon, sort of their indie boot clone. And boy, was it hot to wear those. That was the last time I'm going to wear those in hot weather. So what do? Well, there fortunately is a wonderful option, and that is the canvas-sided moccasin boot. Now, there are a number of manufacturers who make a tall one. One example is Russell. In fact, Russell just came out with a collaboration with Rose Anvil for a black one, black leather moccasin boot, superbly constructed with black fabric on the sides. But that's an awfully tall boot. I think that's either an 8 or a 10-inch tall boot, which is, again, it's really almost too much for summer. If you were really needing that kind of ankle support, it's a great option. But how about something that's more knockabout around town? Well, the perfect boot, in my opinion, for anything in the summer is a boot that is sadly discontinued by Red Wing, and it's called the Wabasha. It was a boot that was part of their heritage line. They really got going with the different varieties and variations of the Wabasha boot about 15 years ago. But they had an earlier version that was sort of the inspiration for the Wabasha line quite a bit earlier than 15 years ago. So really this is a boot that goes back quite a ways in Red Wing's history and really had its heyday with a bunch of different varieties and options 15 years ago. And then unfortunately it was discontinued and it was replaced by the Wakuta, which is a lesser version in pretty much every way. Similar in some ways, but just not nearly as well made. First of all, these Wabashas were made in the USA in a rare collaboration between Red Wing and Rancourt. And as my regular watchers know, Rancourt is a great made-in-USA brand of hand sewers who are specialized in hand-sewn moccasins. And they're located in Lewiston, Maine, and one of my favorite brands. I did a whole video on Rancourt, a pair of Rancourt Knox boots, which you can see if you click below. But this was a rare collaboration, and they made a fair number of variations of this boot, and quite a large number of them were sold, although these were quite expensive to make because they were hand sewn in the USA, which is an unusually high-end approach by Red Wing for any of their products. And as a result, they were quite expensive and they did not sell well. So these are not available anymore. These are an unobtainable boot, and you're going to have to look for them on the secondary market, YouTube, Vinted, and the other Poshmark, the other websites that specialize in used shoes and boots. But I highly recommend that you seek them out in one of the variations that we're going to be discussing here right away. First of all, the earliest version of these that I can dig up is the model number 4591. It's a 3-eyelet version, and unlike these, it had no leather strip along the top. It was a 3-eyelet version, so quite a bit lower than this one. And it just had green duck fabric right up to the top. It was, however, had a strip of leather that lined it at the top on the inside, but not on the outside. As you can see the difference between that one and this one, and some of the other variations that we're going to be talking about, this has leather on both the inside and the outside. But this was a cool one, and these are very rare. I'm not sure when they came from, but their numbering nomenclature suggests to me that they may be 20 to 30 years old. And they appear to have also been made by Rancourt. You can tell the Rancourt ones because they have the double sole. In other words, there's a strip of leather here, and then there's another strip of leather, another piece of leather that goes all the way under in a true moccasin construction. Of course, hand sewn on the top. So you've got one layer, two layers that go all the way through, all the way around, and then hand sewn to the vamp. That's how you can tell that these are made by Rancourt. Also, they have a leather midsole instead of the composite that Red Wing usually uses for their boots. And, of course, the Vibram sole, the mini lug, which makes it a super, super useful and versatile small boot for any use in the summer or really any time. Be just a great warm weather shoe. A little bit higher, and you get a nice ankle support with these. Now the 4591s, being a 3-eyelet, they could really be called a chukka boot, and they were phased out in favor of a very, very similar version, which was given the model number 9186. So the 4591 evolved into the 9186. Very, very similar, except it has leather on the top and on the inside. Also 3-eyelet, also chukka boot. And these really have no other difference between them other than that extra strip of leather up at the top. I almost like the look of the 4591 a little better, to be honest. There's just something cool about it. It almost has a high top sneaker look where it's fabric all the way to the top. But these ones with the extra, the true Wabashas with the 91 series model numbers are also very cool too, and probably a more substantial and better design in that it's got leather on both sides that protect this relatively delicate cotton fabric that comes beneath it, giving it that nice ventilation. And that's really the key to these are a boot that has ventilation that make them very, very comfortable to wear in the summer. And I've worn these already in the hot weather. They're just great. Your feet don't get hot. They breathe through the natural leather, but there's plenty of ventilation with this nice, very substantial cotton duck. In addition to the 9186 3-eyelet version, there's a 9187 version with 7 eyelets, which is this version here, which are my boots. These are the tallest that I've found that were made in the Wabasha line. Now, there were also an interesting series that were made with 5 eyelets. And these, again, are in between this boot that I have and the chukka 3-eyelet. Again, a 5-eyelet, so it goes to about there. And they're really identical to this, except they have a topsider sole. They have 5 eyelets and a topsider sole. Obviously, it's not the Sperry, but it's those micro incisions that give it a non-slip surface. Branded, of course, Red Wing. But these boat shoe sole versions came in a 5-eyelet in either green or brown fabric. The one with the green fabric is the 9190, and the one with the brown fabric is the 9191. So, kind of unusual that they would make the same boot, but with different color. Now, I could see with the boat shoe sole, the brown fabric might be considered to be somewhat more desirable because it gives it a little bit more of the boat shoe topsider type vibe. The green is a very outdoorsy, hiking, hunting vibe, sort of a camo look. So I can see why they did that, but it is a little bit unusual. And then there was also, strangely enough, an all-leather version of these that were made in both 3 and 6 eyelet. The 9173 is the 3 eyelet version. Again, it's just like this boot, made by Raincourt, hand-sewn moccasin construction, but with all leather, no fabric panel at all. So if you're just looking for a hand-sewn moccasin-style low boot, and you're not interested in, or for whatever reason you don't like the fabric duck ventilation panels, those would be a great option. They're certainly the best moccasins that have been made by Red Wing. Since they weren't made by Red Wing, they're made in the USA by Raincourt. Certainly the best moccasins that have been made under the Red Wing brand for a very, very long time. So those are definitely worth looking at. That's the 9173 with 3 eyelets, all leather, Vibram soles. And the pairs of the 6 eyelets that I've seen have not had a legible model number. So I would suspect that they probably are model number 9174 or something similar to that, if the numbering nomenclature of these Wasabas was consistent at all. So let's take a little bit closer look at these. A nice gusseted, hung brass eyelets. They come with leather laces. There's the number. Made in USA. Mine came without the liner, so I got a pair of these sapphire thin leather and cork liners, which I highly recommend. They're really lovely. The leather's great, and then they have a thin layer of cork on the bottom of that to, as you could see, mold to your foot, which they've already started to do. I've only worn these for maybe 4 or 5 hours, and they've already nicely conformed to my foot. There's not a lot of padding, but there is a touch of it, and it's a great replacement for this sort of shoe where you don't really want or need a heavy insole. So that's my recommendation for summer boots, the Wasaba line. If you can't find a pair of these original Wasaba boots, by all means take a look at the Wakutas. They are part of Red Wing's heritage line, and they're similar enough and good looking enough that they're a decent substitute. They may actually cost a little more because if you buy them new, you're not going to get that eBay used boot discount. These are actually pretty reasonable online if you don't mind a used boot. Sometimes the condition is a little iffy, but again, I highly recommend this as a summer boot. I think it's by far the best option for a summer boot to give you that ankle support and to keep you comfortable in the hot weather. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you did, please subscribe. Please comment if you have any thoughts on what I've said or this as a shoe. If you have a pair of these, I'd like to hear from you. Thanks very much, and we'll see you next week.
When